Hello, you're live with ArchieLuxury on the ArchieLuxury channel. Today, my prayers have been answered. I have Ariel Adams. Ariel Adams is the #1 YouTube watch channel. There is nobody who comes close. Ariel Adams isn't just fluff and smoke and mirrors. This man here has a long history of writing for a blog. It used to be called a blog to read, which then became aBlogtoWatch. And I got to tell you, I have spent hundreds of hours reading your stuff. And
thank you. I spent hundreds of hours writing our stuff.
it is brilliant. The way you do things is very, very good. And I got to be honest with you, it's a very tough gig you've got there, because if you're too critical, you don't get watches for review. It's a very tough gig. But I don't think you're ever bored. Your reviews are really, really, really to the point. And if there is advice? Yes, sure.
So over the last year or 2 years, we've had a very interesting situation at aBlogtoWatch, and I haven't yet really been able to figure out how to handle it. The team and I have spent a lot of time discussing it amongst ourselves, and we haven't had really a solution. And maybe I'm just going to bring it up to you, and you can tell me your thoughts, okay?
Yep.
So as you know, we have a comment section on the site.
Yes.
And that is where people can go and say whatever they want. And we've noticed that over the last, like I said, year and a half or so, weird things started to happen. And we started getting what a lot of people call trolls. Now, the really weird part about these trolls is that they were also watch lovers. So they're like watch lover trolls, right? Like they know about watches and are there because of a passion for the same topic, yet they're also assholes. So we have had this challenge of asking ourselves, what is happening? Because we have an increasingly what I'll call bully run economy on the comment section, where a lot of the sort of more mainstream commenters just don't feel comfortable commenting sometimes, because there's these super opinionated jerks that aren't even nice. It's like if someone disagrees with them, that person's wrong and evil and amoral because they don't like the same sizes or colors or whatever. And guys get really heated and opinionated and start getting nasty with one another. And it's like a high school, junior high yelling match. It's not even high school level. You know, it's just like, it's you know, and so we've had to create these policies and all this nonsense. And so here's my question. I'm so sorry to drag this on. What is it that we can do to make the audience feel like we're on their side, we hear them, but at the same time, don't be a jerk in public? Like, these aren't like your school chums. These are strangers who are here because they like watches and are trying to do this on their off time for recreation. Like, just keep the kind of like bro talk to your actual bros, and not like people that are in kind of like a public place. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me answer that for you. You are 100% right. Let me explain it to you, okay? #1, there's a documentary on YouTube called Time Machines. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah, it's a documentary. It's got Tom Bolt. He's a leading watch journalist in the UK. He's not as famous as you. You're kind of the demigod. He's kind of like 3 or 4 levels down from you. Okay. He's called Tom Bolt.
Okay.
And there's a fantastic documentary.
I feel bad because I've never met this guy, because, you know, usually we go to these events that the brands throw, and the brands, they bring all the top guys. So I was just funny. I've never met this guy. Anyways, go on.
He's a UK wristwatch. He's a grey market dealer. Okay.
Oh, he's a dealer. Okay.
He's a dealer. Anyhow, he stars in this documentary called Time Machines. I will send you a link to it. It's a fantastic documentary. I love it. And one of the things that is said in this documentary is, you know, watch collectors, people who love watches, they're not really nice people in real life. Ooh. Like, they have this hobby, but they've got a dark element to themselves.
Hmm.
And I would have to 100% agree with that. I think that's true. I don't think watch people are really that nice. They have a certain amount of egotistical, they have a certain bit of narcissistic traits to themselves. They are extremely self-centered, extremely narcissistic, extremely, they got a bit of a peacock syndrome. They really are, a lot of them are clinical psychopaths.
Wow. I mean, at first I was going to be like, oh, wow, I can relate to this. Then he went to clinical psychopath. I'm like, should I say anything?
Now, when I say psychopath, see, psychopath doesn't have to be a psychopathic killer. He can still be a psychopath. You have corporate psychopaths.
Hmm.
And I've got to tell you, see, what's happened in this world is men no longer have choices. See, the more advanced man, the one who earns more money, the one who is more lucky in life because of brains, breeding, the country they were born in, the top echelon are into watches, okay? But the man himself doesn't have any certainty. Let me give you an example. The women, they all want equal rights. The women also say you can't be sexist, you can't have equal pay for equal work. So in his dating pool, he's dealing with these women who are very, very, they're encroaching on his manhood. In the employment sphere, we no longer have jobs for life. Jobs are contract. They say you will change your career 5 or 6 times in your working life. So you don't have that certainty that you used to have. When you would join General Motors and stay there forever, those jobs don't exist anymore. Okay, they don't exist. What control does a man have in the modern world? What control does he have? And the only control he has is he can buy watches and he can be an arsehole on a watch blog or a forum. That's the only thing he does have any say in. The keyboard warrior. And this is, you can blame it on globalization. This is what it is. It's globalization has caused this because he can't be a man anymore. See, he can't be dominant in his marriage. Oh, no, heaven forbid he wears the pants. He can't be dominant in the workforce. Heaven forbid he'll get the sack. Where can he be dominant? Where can the alpha male be dominant? And the honest answer is where the alpha male can be dominant is in the watch community world. The watch collecting world. On your forums, he's there putting comments up. He's taking you down a peg. This is what he needs to do. See, he would have normally had this in the workplace, but he doesn't. The whole world has changed.
This is a lot to process.
Mm.
I mean, I think you brought up a lot of very interesting points. And I agree that these days men don't have as many outlets for what are probably normal feelings and emotions as they used to, and it's frustrating.
Exactly. I mean, we live in such a PC world, politically correct world.
Well, look, maybe guys had it like really too good for really long. You know what I mean? But now with sort of like a world of shifting duties and responsibilities, we haven't quite figured it out yet. Like we went from one extreme, but we're not in a place of equilibrium yet. Look, like everything's just kind of screwed up.
I'm a white, lower middle class, overweight male. This is not the time to be a white, lower middle class, overweight male.
Hold on one second.
Jobs are given to minority groups. Sorry.
Well, let me say one thing, because here's the thing. What you've just described is, in my understanding, a very large group of people. What you do have is no lack of community. There's a lot of people just like you, and if you and guys like you were able to organize and have like a good plan of something to do, that could be very powerful. I agree. There's a lot of individuals like you that have frustrations, you know, but I think that you as a group are powerful because you have numbers. You have a lot of numbers on your side, you know. Change a few of those variables in that, and I'm part of that group as well. Like, just there's a big group of people out there that don't feel like they have a cohesive voice. I think popular culture has taken away the ability for there to be a public voice for the hegemonic male. I mean, who is it? Like, my country's president? Like, we don't want that to be our voice.
You're exactly right there. It's globalization. It's the alumni. It's the new world order. That's what it is, Ariel. And you've just got to understand that these men, these alpha males, see, they could be aggressive in the employment sphere before, and that was rewarded with promotion. It was called leadership. Now they get a rap on the wrist from PR for being a sexist swine.
Look, it's getting a little extreme. I read the news. I read about what happened to the gentleman, James Damore at Google. Interesting news, very interesting news. I read the so-called manifesto that he, that leaked. He wrote it on the private Google server. I don't exactly know what kind of community systems they have, but it got out. He didn't share it outside. I don't believe that. No. And if you look at it for what it is, it was by no means the most well-written thing in the world. I mean, this guy's an engineer. He's not a writer. It is, a lot of it is highly up to interpretation. I'll say that. But I didn't feel that he had an agenda as full of hatred as a lot of people gave him credit for. I don't, that really wasn't part of it. I think there's a lot of misinterpretation of hatred when it's not hatred. Maybe it's ignorance. It's definitely not hatred.
Ariel, I think the thing is, you are the leading watch blog in the world. So
I should be talking about political issues. Okay, you're right.
No. What I'm saying is that the men folk, the alpha males who buy watches, let's face it, these are expensive trinkets for achievers.
Yep.
Have you not seen the advertisement for the Cadillac electric car?
Tell me about this advertisement.
Yeah, this is a very, very classic General Motors marketing campaign where it says basically he gets to buy nice stuff because he only takes 2 weeks a year off instead of 4.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why he can afford a Cadillac electric car.
If only it cost 2 weeks worth of pay. If only.
Yes, it's a fantastic advertisement, and it'll answer all this for you. But I've got to tell you, honestly, the problem is watch collectors are not nice people. They really are not nice people.
But can they be reformed or trained or somehow refined?
No, they can't. They're alpha males. These are the leaders of the pack. They're achievers.
So there's no way they can be better adjusted for evolving society?
Did communism work?
Are you saying that men are like communists?
No, men want to achieve and go places, but if they have an equal society where we're respectful to all members in the community, it's not going to work.
Okay,
I
believe very strongly in the basic principle of all ecosystems that for things to work, the unfortunate reality is there's always something exploiting something else. There's this thing where in order to seemingly be on top, somebody has to be underneath you, right? So there's the
if someone's winning, someone's losing, aren't they? So for everyone who wins, there's got to be someone who loses.
It's a harsh kind of reality of living, but it is a reality. I think for a long time the sort of high living standards of first world nations were incumbent on the fact that there was some type of exploitation of labor, something by some less fortunate place in the world. And as you try to equal things out, you no longer have the ability to have rich countries because poor countries are getting more and more pissed off. I think that that's what's going on to a degree, but I think that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to lose track on the topic, but you know, it's. I just want to point out something like, isn't it interesting how much these philosophical conversations come in when you think that you sit down and you're like, I'm just talking about watches.
I got to tell you, I was impressed with you. You actually interviewed Bret Easton Ellis, the author of American Psycho.
Yes, yes, we talked about that.
That was such an amazing. How was he? Was he a nice guy?
He was a weird guy. He wasn't mean. He was weird.
Yes, like he actually really researched that book. You know, he really put his heart and soul.
He would have fit
into
your
it.
description of being someone who is, what would you say, narcissistic, self-centered. I mean, I think that we can. Again, if that does accurately describe the male watch collector, going back to the previous topic, I think that we could be evolved a little bit. I know that we exist in an economy where we have to exploit others.
Well, see, you've got to look at it. The reason I brought this up is because you've got to look at these guys, these alpha males, as characters in American Psycho.
Yeah, but what happened at the end of the book is my question.
I quite liked the book. Did you like the book or not?
I did. But what happened at the end?
Well, he kind of, the funny thing is in the end of the book, you don't know whether it's really real what's happened, or is it just his imagination he's thought this has happened.
Yeah, see, you can never answer the question, because I think the answer is
it's so horrific.
It's horrific because it's, in my opinion, it's the difference between the real world and the reality we create. And ultimately, we never know what is the subjective reality of how our mind perceives the world, how it creates reality, versus the objective reality of, you know, 1 + 1 always equals 2. And I think that, you know, a lot of it is perspective. That's what he's trying to say, is like the way that you're going to perceive these situations is going to be based upon a perspective you have. And that's going to dictate a lot of your life, is a sense of perspective. But ultimately, you can't say that my perspective is the only way. You'll never know if it's in your head or if it's really what you're seeing in the world.
That is so true. And I got to tell you, let me ask you this there. You've had a lot of experience with collectors and watch people. Do you think they are nice people?
You know, when you said that statement, my stomach kind of sunk a little bit, because I was like, I was thinking about how many people I've known that have had an awful reputation, right? Like, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying I have known of a lot of really horrible watch people. You know, we were talking about dictators and things like that, right? Like, those guys were legit watch lovers, but they were also terrible people. And so I was like, oh my God, Archie's onto something. So I kind of, but at the same time, I think that we can learn behavior that makes us more social. Like, maybe I'm sure there's been times in my life where I've been a lot less social and aware of the feelings of others than I am now. I had to learn all that behavior as an adult.
So let me ask you this, okay? Does the jerk in the office, does he always wear a Rolex?
Here's the funny thing. A lot of guys who aren't jerks also wear Rolex. So you can't judge a guy by his watch if he's wearing a Rolex. Like, some watches will tell you all about a guy. You see a guy wearing a Rolex, you're like, other than the fact that he could afford it, and I hope it's real, I don't know anything about him.
I got to tell you, the problem with Rolex is it's like Mercedes drivers. You don't know whether they're really enthusiasts or they just bought it because they thought it was the best they could buy. Like, I remember I said to one guy I worked with, I said, nice Submariner. He goes, it's a Rolex. He didn't know what a Submariner was.
You should have punched him in the face.
You know what I mean? Have you ever started up a conversation with people based on the watch they're wearing? Hey, nice watch.
Oh my God. I'll tell you what. I see a lot of really cool, what I would call cult status Omegas out in the wild. And I can remember at least 3 instances of going up to somebody, complimenting their cool Omega, and they look at me like I'm some type of psycho. Meaning, they're like, why would anyone want to talk about my watch? I remember there was a Mark 4.5, I think, which was the really weird square-cased one. I saw a guy wearing one of those in a high-end supermarket here in Los Angeles. And I went up to him compliments him. Turns out he bought it at the Zurich airport in the 70s and has been wearing it ever since. Who'd have thought?
Yes. Yes.
There was a guy at a in downtown Los Angeles, like this kind of like hip food area who was wearing an Omega X33.
Ah, X33, wow.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
You don't see many of those.
Yeah. Again, another guy that just bought it when it came out new and has just been wearing it since. Had no idea it was a thing. What I'm trying to think of some other one. There was some there was some like very uncommon like 1940s Omega chronograph that like a woman was wearing. And she's just like, oh yeah, I inherited it from someone. She had no idea what it was.
Wow. Did
So
you try and buy it off her?
No, I mean, look, I do bring it up a lot. I would say more often than not, I don't bring it up. I was at dinner tonight, and there was an old gentleman and his wife, meaning looked like he had retired at a nice restaurant. He was just there with his like gold Richard meal, like solid gold, just hanging out at dinner table next to me. I'm like, that's an interesting question, sir. You don't necessarily look like the normal guy that wore a solid gold Richard meal. But I decided not to. He was at dinner.
I remember once, I've been fired from many jobs for my mouth, okay? I remember there was this guy who was a complete dick. And I said to him, because I worked in IT. I did IT support for KBR, Kellogg Brown and Root, part of Halliburton, the evil force. And this guy was pouncing around the office. He had a steel sub. Excuse me.
Prouncing around the office?
Yeah. I said, excuse me, I heard that you have a very, very valuable Rolex Submariner watch. Is that true? And he was complete, absolute ass. Oh, yeah. He just flicked it at me. And I got the sack for this, by the way. I said to him, excuse me. I said, that's not a Submariner, Paul Hogan style. And I lifted my sleeve to reveal a solid gold 30 dial Submariner. I said, that's a Submariner.
So Paul Hogan from Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, you know, with the knife? That's not a knife. Yeah. That's a knife.
Is Paul Hogan still around?
Yes, he is. He's had a few tax problems, but he's okay. Oh. Linda Kalowski's sort of left him.
I really liked that movie when I was a kid.
So cool. And I gotta tell you, you know, a lot of the times I've actually said to people, nice Rolex. And, you know, the biggest mistake I've made in the workplace is they're wearing one of these bloody Seikos, which looks like a Rolex until you really look at it. You say, oh, nice Rolex. I got a Rolex too. Then you realize he says, oh, that's not I've got a Seiko. You think, oh, shit. And he's my boss. And I'm thinking,
have you ever been given an odd look because you were visually moving your face closer to someone's wrist only in order to understand what watch they're wearing?
Well, actually, I got a job once because of it. I was interviewed for a job, and I said to the guy, I said, my God, have you got a Vacheron and Constantine on your wrist?
This was during the job interview?
Yes.
What, and you got the job?
Yes. I was offered it, but I turned it down. He said, you're the only person in his life who's ever recognized a Vacheron and Constantine. I said, the cross. How could I not see it with the cross there?
Why would you not take a job where your boss is a watch guy like that?
Because it was offered to me in Papua New Guinea where you get killed up there, okay? It was a long story.
You get killed in Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, the natives are very dangerous. It's a third world country.
Okay, I know very little about.
So I got to tell you, that was an interesting tale. Do you, if you see a nice watch, I don't know whether if you see a nice watch on somebody, do you start a conversation or have you learned to shut your mouth?
I think I wrote a whole article on this, actually. I did. I wrote an entire article on the etiquette of approaching someone in public. And wanting to start I wrote this entire article in nuanced detail about the etiquette.
Okay, it's very, very good, very good. And
I mean, there's a lot of right things and wrong things to do. I'll give you an example. This is something I believe it is proper form that if you are in public and you see a gentleman and you want to check out their watch. Now, one of the requirements of this is that you be willing to take off your watch and hand it to them while you're looking at their watch. You have to do a watch swap. So it's good form to say, in exchange for the fact that you are handing me your watch, I'm going to be handing you my watch as collateral, if you will. But also as in respect that you might want to check out what I'm seeing. You know, like dogs sniffing each other's butts, something like that.
Yes. It's like that movie in Spies Are Us, where I think it was all trains, planes, and automobiles, where he swaps it with the Russian. Remember, the Russian had the $20 Russian watch.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've seen those movies, but yeah.
Yes. I know exactly what you're saying, and the problem is with Rolex people is you don't know whether they are real enthusiasts. Like if I see an IWC in the wild, you can tell that person is a Weiss. Okay, just the brand. He's a watch idiot savant. You know, savant.
Where did this term come from? I didn't create this term. This term pre-existed me. Who thought that watch idiot savant was the best way of categorizing a watch nerd? I mean, yes, it's still, you know, the word savant, but really? I don't know.
I mean, with Rolex, you never know because they could just have bought it, like you said. But with IWC, that's a brand where they would have to be a Weiss.
I don't think so. I've seen a lot of guys wearing Portugueses. If you wear a Portuguese, that just means you like the look of Portuguese. There's tons of guys that love the Portuguese.
How about Panerai? Panaristi. They got to be a Panaristi to wear a Panerai, don't you?
Nope. My lawyer the other day, he actually, when I first met this lawyer, he had a Zodiac, like an old Zodiac. I was like, that's crazy. You have a Zodiac. And then I was like on the phone with him, and I was like, where's your Zodiac at? He's like, oh, I don't know where it is. He's like, you know what I really want to get? It's one of those. And he mispronounced Panerai. He was like Paneri. I was like, oh God. I was like, oh God, you didn't even know watches, and you saw like a name in a magazine, and you just said it. So no, the answer is no. You don't need to be.
What about Jaeger-LeCoultre? Does that mean you're a watch person if you've got a Jaeger-LeCoultre?
Not if you are a woman and your father bought you a Lady Reverso.
Have you ever dated women based on the watches they wore?
Good question.
My Japanese wife had a Tag Heuer, two-tone Tag Heuer 1500.
Did you date her because of it?
No, I dated her because she was easy, but I mean that just was what she was wearing. It's a joke. Boom, 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 boom. No. I in my country, in Brisbane, no one really is into watches. No one. This city I live in just sucks. No one is into watches.
What are they into? What are they into?
Like they're into big V8 cars.
Is gas cheap there?
Not as cheap as America, but they're not into watches. That's what they're not into at all.
Look,
Brisbane
Australia
used to be
is our fifth largest, continent. Source of traffic. Yeah, well, fifth largest source of traffic. You know, you're slightly more traffic than Singapore. So Singapore has like a few people less per month than in Australia. So Australia's,
but they're all wealthy. They're all wealthy in Singapore.
I think we have like approximately 100,000 people a month from Australia that visit aBlogtoWatch each month. I mean, it's not a huge amount of people, but
that's huge. That's a lot of people from Australia. I mean,
what is the population of Australia? I feel
about 22 million.
22 million. Okay.
Not many are into watches. We're not a watch country. See, Singapore's got a population of about 4 million, but there's so many more of them are into watches, and they got beautiful watches. They're not into crap that we collect. They're into really stunning, beautiful. They've all got Rolexes and Panerais.
Listen, I think that the community of watch lovers in Australia is maybe disconnected, but some fantastic people. I've had a lot more communication with Australian watch lovers that contacted us disproportionately to like the US or Canada, and intelligent guys industrious, ask a lot of good questions. You know, like conservative watches, but are okay with a little bit of flair. Definitely like a little bit of
Can I ask you something,
taste.
Ariel?
Sure, sure.
Okay. If you had to have one watch which represents who you are as a person and a man, what would it be?
I don't know that I can answer that. I mean, it's a great question. It'd be fun to be able to answer it. I could tell you qualities it might have. I mean, look, you know, one of the most common questions I used to get asked was, what's your favorite watch? So often that I wrote a preposterously long article on why I have no favorite watch and why it's unfair to make me have one. Now, that's not really what you're asking me.
I think you are. You know what I think you are?
What do you think I am?
In my opinion, I think you're a Lange 1.
Even though I don't like asymmetry?
No, Lange 1. Lange 1. It is the I think Lange 1 is one of the most beautiful Langes of all time.
I just wore one for a few weeks recently.
Yellow gold it have to be yellow gold.
It was yellow gold. It was yellow gold. It was a little I like the Grand. It's a little bit bigger.
I think that's you. You know why I say that?
Why? Because
you're at the top of your tree. You can be very nice, but you've got a bit of a nasty sting there.
Like the Lange one?
And you've got to live in a little bit of fear. You're outside the pack. You're not part of the Swiss clan. You're outside. You are the number one in the industry.
No, you're amazingly kind. You look, you're the number one in your segment, but dude, you invented your segment.
Yeah, no, I would say if I was a watch, I'd have to say I am really, the watch I am is the Breguet Type 20, punching way above my weight.
Ooh.
But got a Lemania movement inside it.
You know, I saw an actual watch with Lemania on the dial, a World War II watch.
They're so cool, aren't they? They're not that expensive. You know, that Lemania really never did well as a watch company.
But it, you know, I remember playing with it, and this was a watch from the 40s, and I remember thinking to myself, the only other chronograph that felt this nice was the spring drive chronograph. But it had the nicest action. This World War II one, it still worked great. I was operating the chronograph, and I know it's silly, just the feeling of the pusher, but it was so satisfying. Start, stop. I was just like, I know you. If you had this thing, you'd just break it because you'd be playing with it all the time.
Actually, I got a bad story about a Lemania chronograph World War II military watch. Do you want to hear it?
Is it sad?
Yeah, it is actually.
Oh God, I don't know if I could take a sad watch story.
Okay. From 2002 to 2004, I was working for a watch dealer in Thailand.
Doing what?
Anyhow, he had this fucking Lemania military watch. He just bought, and he wanted me to photograph it, right?
Yeah.
And I fucked around with the crown. Okay. No, the pusher. Not the crown, the pusher. And I was photographing it out the window. And the fucking pusher, bang! It flew off down the balcony. I was on a 6-story building.
Oh my God. It went out the window?
Yes. Yes.
The spring, something just happened?
Yes.
What was the first thing you felt?
Fuck!
Oh my God.
It didn't go over well. Can we just say that?
Did you go out and look for it?
Yes.
No
needle in a haystack. No, of course not. Of course.
I love your funny stories. You have the best funny stories.
That wasn't very funny at the time.
You know what you need to do? What? You need to make those little short sound recordings of you doing specific, like a specific scream or like a specific phrase that your audience likes, and you can just insert them. You know, like you have the board like in old radio shows.
Yes.
So that rather than have to like yell all the time, you can just have a button that does it for you.
Ariel, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
If you won the lotto, let's say, let's pick a figure. Let's pick a figure. Say $20 million US. So you're going to buy your dream house, you buy your dream car, you do the yada, yada, yada. You put money away for your kids' education, yada, yada, yada. What watch do you buy yourself?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Why 20 million? Why not just have like infinite amount, like a 20?
Well, whatever you want. Pick a figure. I mean, for me,
one item, right?
For me, 20 million is more than ever I could use. But you just pick a figure. Any figure you want. What watch? No limit, money, no limit. Would you buy?
Well, it would be a very long process because it would take an enormous amount of politics to even make it happen. Like it wouldn't be just a matter of money. There'd be a lot of politics involved. But I'd go and I'd try to buy the Breguet Marie Antoinette from the museum in Israel. That's
I got a much easier answer. I just say 5396 in white, in rose gold. That's all I want. That's it.
Well, you're an easier man to please than me. See, I have complicated tastes. I'm sorry.
See, with your one, you'd have to hire you'd have to get in touch with the clan. You have to get in touch with Tony Soprano.
The clan?
They'd have to organize a burglary. They'd have to square it all up.
It worked pretty well last time.
They'd have to square it all up, and that's just so complicated.
I know, but the thing is, that item represents the entire appeal of watch collecting in one single item. There will never, ever, ever be any item more significant to watch collecting than that. So if you had that, you could literally just be done. I'm not choosing it because it's super hard to get. I'm choosing it because it literally is like mission accomplished. There can be never anything greater to get. But if you don't have that, there's always going to be something better.
Tell me this. Are you going to give you've got a child, haven't you? A boy or a girl?
It's coming. It's a boy.
When they hit a significant age, are you going to give them a wristwatch of significance? What age and what watch?
I mean, I kind of have to, right? Like, imagine growing up, my son, and at some point they're going to be like, are you ever going to give me a watch?
What age and what watch? I've done it. I've been there. I've got 4 children. I gave my 2...
4 children? I did not know you had 4 children.
I have 4 boys.
Incredible. You are a virile specimen, Archie.
Yes, thank you. He's 24 and 21. That's the 2 eldest. I gave them a boy-sized Rolex when they were in their teens. They promptly asked me to sell it. I sold it and bought them. The money's all gone now. And they will not inherit my watch collection. So I've got 2 more children. Once they enter high school, they will be given a boy-sized Rolex each. Depending on how they handle that determines whether they carry on.
What is boy size? What size are we talking about here?
You know the Rolex Royal. You know the 1950s boy size.
How? But what size is that?
Okay, about 30 mil. 30 mil.
30 mil.
These are only kids. They were young teens.
Okay. I'm just saying 30 mil, like 35 I get, but 30, that's a little watch.
They're only boys. They were kids. They asked me to sell it. That's the end of it then.
Oh. So wait, how old were they?
They were 2004. They were 11 or 12.
And they didn't want the watch? They wanted to sell it? They
took the watch, and then they came back to me and said, can you please sell it and buy something else? I said, okay, whatever you want to do. It is heartbreaking. Though 2 vintage Rolexes were given to them.
You probably put a lot of love and attention.
Yes.
And they asked you to sell the gift. It's not like they deserved it.
I know. You hit it on the head.
I'm so sorry, man. That sounds like it was a painful experience.
It was. It was very painful. But what age and what are you going to give to your son?
Well, I don't think a Rolex is a good start. I mean, look, they got to learn responsibility. So I think that getting them something mechanical so they understand what it does early on is a good idea. But, let them wear whatever they want. Seikos, Citizens, Casios. I mean, I think it's great to grow up with those watches. Like, I think it's great to grow up with modern contemporary watches of today, if you grew up with like vintage watches as a kid, you're going to be really confused. Like, what are you going to be into when you're like, you know, like 40, 50 years old? Like someone else's past? Like, you need to be into your own history when you grew up. So as a kid, I think you should be wearing contemporary timepieces so that you actually have some nostalgia that you can share with someone else when you're of the age to want nostalgia. Sorry, was that really confusing?
No. That's very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed there. Tell me this, what in your life, see, I remember getting my dad got a Seiko 5 given to him. I was in such awe. I thought Seiko was the best brand in the world.
Seiko makes a good product. Look, I think it's important to show a kid that when you give him something, it comes with a certain responsibility. And my father's no longer around, but he had a special way. He was, according to some people, not the most responsible dad. Like, one of the weird things he did is at a very young age, he gave me like hunting knives. Like, a lot of boys are interested in knives. And I was interested in knives from a very young age because I love seeing like Rambo. Like, I love that movie. And I was like, oh my God, Rambo is an awesome knife. I want a knife like Rambo. So like, I think like 7 years old, my dad bought me like a large military style hunting knife, which ironically was made in Japan.
Yep, they make some excellent knives in Japan.
But he told me, you need to be careful with this. You have to like not, you know, treat it like anything but a dangerous item. It can be a tool, but it can also hurt you and hurt other people, and you need to be responsible with it. And growing up with this giant blade, I never did anything stupid, never hurt myself, never hurt anyone else, never even threatened it. Like, I understood because he explained to me the responsibility of having something dangerous. And I think it's the same exact conversation with something valuable.
How old are you? What age are you, Ariel? 30s, 40s, 50s?
I'm 35 now.
35. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're 10 years younger than me. Wow. That was a very responsible thing. See, I agree with you. See, I would be too embarrassed to do anything naughty with a knife like that. But that's quite a bit of responsibility. You still have that knife?
You know what the weird thing is? I'm actually looking at it right now because it's kind of beat up. It's the coolest thing in the world. You know, this is a weird thing. I thought to myself, what would a watch that was meant to go with this knife look like? So I took some pictures of this and I've shown it to a very talented designer friend that I have. And I was like, can you make a watch that looks like it would go with this?
Wouldn't it be a Panerai?
Don't forget, the blade is Japanese. I'm not saying this to be a Japanese watch, but I'm saying like
a Grand Seiko.
It's definitely going to be green. The knife is green. The sheath is green. It's got a hard sheath. It's got a compass on the end of it. You know, on the end of the handle. There's like a
that's
compass.
Fantastic.
It's even got a knuckle guard. It has a removable knuckle guard, like so you could like punch somebody with it.
Wow, that is so cool. That is
it's a crazy knife. So I have some weird ideas. So like, I would love to see a watch that looked like it was inspired by this knife. I know that sounds a little weird, but I know it would be awesome. I know it would be awesome.
That reminds me of the movie A Serious Man. Have you seen that movie?
Why does that sound familiar?
It's a Coen Brothers movie.
A Serious Man? Give me the plot. Who is in it?
Basically, it's a story of this Jewish professor. He's trying to get tenure at university. Everything goes wrong in his wife. Everything goes wrong in his life. His wife tells him that she wants to leave him. His kids don't like him. He hasn't got full-time tenure at the university. He's got all these problems. And his neighbor goes hunting with his son. He took his kid out of school. They turn up at home with this deer strapped to the roof of the car because they've been hunting. And that's where that knife would have come in very handy, you know. And it was a great movie. Great movie. One of the great, that's probably my best English-speaking movie I've ever seen. A Serious Man. It's Coen Brothers movie.
Coen Brothers are great.
They do some great stuff.
I want?
What's that?
I was just thinking, you know, because we have these conversations. Yes. So you know how that American actor Bill Paxton died?
How did he die?
A disease, I believe.
Oh, okay.
He was in Aliens, and then he was in all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And he
Yes,
was in
yes.
there was an HBO show called Big Love he was in. That was the last big thing he was in.
Ah, yes.
So in Big Love, especially in the first and I think second season, he was wearing.
He died of a stroke, didn't he?
A stroke. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. But he was wearing an IWC Aqua Timer chronograph.
Wow.
Okay. And I remember I wrote an article about it, I think, because what I had to do at the time, I was so excited by it, I had to take a photograph of the TV screen.
Oh, I see. Yes.
That was, and you know what the funny thing is? That's actually illegal. That is a form of copyright infringement.
Cool. But
I figured I'm promoting the show. Like, how horrible can this be for them? I'm probably doing a good thing.
Yes.
But and now that he passed away, I'm like, I have this emotional moment. I'm like, I've always liked the watch. And now this guy I respected died. He wore it in a show. And I'm like, am I guilty of the nostalgia thing now? Like, if I entered the age of like wanting stuff just because it like reminds me of like shit I liked? You know what I mean?
Yes. Very good question.
And maybe, have you entered that phase yet? Or maybe it's been a while.
I don't watch television. You know that? I haven't watched TV in over 10 years.
I stopped subscribing to cable a few years ago. I know what you're saying. But do you watch stuff on a computer?
Yes, I do. A little bit. I got to be honest with you. You know, I'm not really lusting after anything. I kind of think there's more to be had in less watches than more.
What do you mean?
Like, I kind of think, you know, how many to improve the enjoyment, less is more. Have less watches to enjoy watches more. I mean, how many do you need? How many watches do you really need in life?
Infinite watches, Archie. Infinite watches. You need infinite watches because if you stop being interested in a hobby, you're probably going to die soon. As long as you can have the energy to be interested in a hobby that does nothing other than making you psychically feel positive, you're fine.
Do you think watches could ever die as a hobby? Could that hobby just die out and they become worthless? How would you handle that?
I mean, the item doesn't become worthless if the hobby dies out. It's simply meaning there aren't new watches made. I mean, look. Could the world just all of a sudden stop making watches? Yes. I mean, that's what they thought was going to happen in the 80s. They're like, okay, I guess the world doesn't need this anymore. And then somehow it stuck, and then it grew again, and then it grew too big. And then here we are. And you're right. It could look from certain perspectives very dire, where the watch industry is just like, wait a minute, guys. And they look at each other like, you know, the fog is lifted, and they're like, wait, we don't actually need to be making mechanical watches. I mean, if you think of the parts of the world where mechanical watches are actually necessary, the entire thing could be a tiny cottage industry, right? Where, like, you know, it could be, that's all it would be. It was a couple watchmakers, a couple little companies. There'd be some novelty things. You'd have some.
Can I ask you something? Why do the Swiss not sell parts to independent watchmakers anymore? Why are they so greedy?
Why do you think? I mean, you just answered your question. They need money.
Because they're greedy. They want all the pie for themselves. They don't want to give it to.
No, here's the thing. It's very easy to accuse them of being greedy. But if you haven't noticed lately, business hasn't been good. They have been trying to do everything possible across various areas in order to recapture some profit that has been going away for years. Trust me, if they were making money across the board and people were buying watches and you get them fixed and selling parts, they'd be like, sure, no problem. But they have been seeing their profits shrink, and they've been looking for every possible way of finding revenue. So I would say that are they trying to make more money from the process? Yes, but why would they do so and risk pissing off so much people? I mean, this is an industry that hates controversy.
I got to tell you, the other day, someone told me about Jomashop. They're selling Omega Speedmasters in the big box with the strap and the loop for $33.50.
Okay.
How does Jomashop do that? That's grey market dumping, isn't it?
Okay, so Jomashop is a very interesting type of entity. Now, Jomashop is a dealer, right? They acquire inventory and they sell it. You can only demonize them so far as you can demonize the fact that they can get watches for this price. Jomashop isn't trying very hard. Jomashop is making very willing deals with watch brands and other dealers and distributors to sell stuff at the lowest price essentially possible. The problem is Jomashop is the only way certain things can get sold, and Jomashop has grown enough to have some serious buying power. So Jomashop can go straight to the factory and basically be like, I'm going to buy a bunch of stuff. And they're like, oh, but it's going in Jomashop. You're like, you don't have to say it came from you. And it's like, the factory is like, well, it is an order. And Jomashop aren't the first guys in there, I bet. I don't think Jomashop's like having meetings with them at Basel. Or maybe they are. I mean, they are going to Basel. But like Jomashop's like, okay, what haven't you sold enough of? What do you need to move a little bit? And Jomashop will also make sure they get some hot models as well. But Jomashop is able to exist because of an industry that allows it. You can't demonize Jomashop because if it wasn't them, it'd be someone else. And Jomashop plays by the rules. They know what they can and can't do. They are a very rule-abiding company. People might not like what they represent, but Jomashop could be way more dangerous than they are right now. If you want Jomashop to go away, it's very simple. All you do is you slap them with an authorized dealer label, and the brands say, hey, Jomashop, you can be our authorized dealer, and you can be the only one online, and you can handle all of our sales, but you got to market us. Oh, but by the way, you can't discount. And Jomashop's like, and they'll be like, and if you're not our authorized dealer, no one will be online, and you won't be able to get our watches anymore. Because they'll just totally restrict stuff because they'll give the exclusivity to someone else. So, Jomashop will be an authorized dealer if the brands are smart, or they'll just let this shit keep happening.
I forgot you actually wrote an article on Jomashop. This is like talking to a disciple of Jesus. You know that? You're it's pretty damn. Actually, you only wrote that in July, didn't you?
Well, that was it. We had an advertisement by them. They wrote that. Our policy is those ads are written by the advertiser. We never want anyone to read an ad and be like, who wrote this ad? It's clearly the advertiser. Look, these guys come to us and they say, we want to spend advertising money. And I'm not just talking about Jomashop. I'm talking about advertisers. And our job is to make sure that the audience is presented with relevant messages about products and services they might want. And we have to push very hard to these advertisers so that the stuff they have doesn't suck. So with those posts, we're like, okay, but you need to make your best shot at writing a post that makes sense. We spend sometimes hours going back and forth with them, reading drafts and offering feedback because I
got to be honest with you. I love Jomashop. You know that, Ariel?
A lot of people do. That's the thing.
I don't think they're dodgy. They're not dodgy to deal with. They've got a fantastic return policy. How could you not like them?
Look, there's so many people like you that have had a positive experience with them. That's the reason that I was okay with it. If a bunch of people be like, dude, they're crooks, I'd be like, okay, hell no, we're not letting them be advertisers.
But you actually did get a bit of flack. I got to tell you this. I got to say to you, I really admire you because there were some really nasty shitters out there. I mean, some of the comments that were said there, shame on you, aBlogtoWatch. You were so desperate for money, you promote a grey market dealer to earn money from them.
I don't know that means we're desperate for money because we accept a legitimate advertiser.
Well, I got to hand it to you. I think you handled it well, professional. I think Jomashop, for a lot of Weises, is the way to buy things. Because, look, I think Jomashop, see, what you got to understand is Jomashop is a different level of seller to somebody else. When you walk into the boutique and you know nothing about watches, they educate you. They provide expensive mineral water to you. They provide a brochure. They explain the different things, yada, yada, yada. Jomashop is for the more experienced buyer who knows exactly what he wants. Therefore, they don't necessarily need to pay a premium for that knowledge transfer. They already know what they want. So you could argue by buying from Jomashop, you're not really any different to somebody who has no knowledge and pays 20, 30% more, because you've saving Jomashop the cost of having a boutique in a snooty area with snooty sales staff, with snooty events, and you're just wholesaling them out.
I gotta say, I have to agree. There are a lot of really bad watch salespeople. There's some great ones. There are some great ones, but for every good watch salesperson, I've met at least 2 not great ones.
You heard the comment about Trump. If his family didn't have money, he would be selling expensive watches in New York.
But he doesn't even know what a nice watch is.
Why do you say that?
Have you seen the watches he's worn? He's clearly not even looking for anything in the watch. Like when he wears a watch, he's got his
own line, the Donald Trump line of watches. You know that?
You know what? Anybody wants to Google that, they can make their own assessment.
The signature series. You know the signature series?
I don't know a lot about the signature. I know that some of the
let me just say to you, they're absolute pieces of crap. Okay, let's just say that. Okay, I can tell you. I can tell you.
You heard it from Archie. He's the authority on that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Just because you have money doesn't prove that you have taste.
So he wears watches from time to time. I remember there was a picture taken of him playing golf, and you could see a really close shot of his watch, and it wasn't clear exactly what it was, but it was definitely a vintage watch, and it was a watch that, judged by today's standards, would have looked a lot like what I call a lady's cocktail watch, like a watch that she would wear.
Jesus Christ, you can't wear a watch when you're playing golf. Can you imagine the repair bill?
Well, there's that. But I mean, would you knowing what you know about, watch culture, and would you be seen playing golf where there's going to be photographers wearing what a lot of members of the public would interpret as a woman's watch? If you knew about watches, you probably may have worn something else.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're right. It's an amazing thing. Does the watch determine who you are as a man? Do you wear a watch dependent on things you're doing in your life?
Well, I mean, look, it depends how much thought and effort you put into it, because I think guys like you and me, our watch says something about us because we make that choice for a very specific reason. So that's why when you see an obscure watch on someone,
what are you wearing now? What have you been wearing for the last week? What's your thing?
Oh, I do not wear the same watch for a week. No, I change all the time. Right now, I am wearing a very nice timepiece that I like a lot. It's not perfect, but no watch is. It's the brand new one that just came out. The Octavia.
Ah, the Octavia. It's a beautiful watch.
It really is, and I think that it's not necessarily going to be appreciated for what it is. And the thing is, it's a totally modern watch with like a vintage style skin. Like it's not a vintage watch in any way, shape, or form, but it's a modern watch which is like dressed like a vintage one. But the movements and the construction is all totally modern, and it's a genre specifically for design enthusiasts, like design enthusiasts that like nice watches. This is the thing for you.
I gotta tell you, there's a place for this, because I know people who say, "Oh, why would you buy the reissue when you could buy the vintage piece?" And the honest thing is that so many of these vintage pieces are hard to live with. They're not waterproof. They're hard to get parts for. They're not that accurate. Many reissues solve this problem.
I mean, look, I'm going to say something that I'm going to. Okay, let me just say this now. And maybe someone out there will disagree with me. If you are a casual watch lover, and when I say casual, I mean like you don't like work on watches yourself. You're not a watchmaker, and you prefer vintage watches. The message I hear is that you never actually care if they're accurate. Because if you cared at all about performance, you know that you're very often better off with a modern one. It's true. You can restore a vintage movement and put a lot more money into it, or you can get lucky and get one that's pretty accurate. For the most part, the newer movements use more precise machining technology and can be more accurate and more reliable. So if you wear the vintage one, it's just basically saying like, I don't care if it doesn't work as well.
Yes, very true.
That's what I have to say about that. So you never helped me with the suggestion what to do about the audience that sometimes seems intent on making their club room very dirty and gross.
That's simple. Just ban them.
Is that really the answer?
There's no other answer.
Ban them? It's so violent.
These trolls, they're only after attention. If you
so
suffocate the oxygen, they won't go on.
I
have a lot of trolls myself.
You want to know?
I got to tell you, there's some real.
You have trouble too?
Oh, I got 3 moderators on my channel constantly trying to understand it. I think the problem is, right, a lot of these trolls, people are very jealous. I got to be honest with you. People are incredibly jealous. See, the problem with you, Ariel, is that you are the market leader in independent watch reviews on watches and YouTube. Right? You're really the market leader. You put a lot of effort in, quality content, and people don't like that. They don't want you to be successful. They want you to fail.
That's so sad.
No, that's just the world we live in. People are jealous. Incredibly jealous. It's like the guy who shot John Lennon. Why did he do it? Why did he shoot John Lennon?
But these people,
jealous.
I'm not competing with these people. Like, I'm producing content that these people enjoy. Like, I'm helping them with something enjoyable for their idle time. Why are they punishing me for it?
Because they're jealous. They're not successful in their own life. Things haven't worked out well. It's a very,
this one guy just had to ban, and this was after repeatedly emailing him privately and giving him every opportunity. And then he goes and he makes these fake names on the site, and he'll comment and he'll start talking shit about me. And I say, dude, you're clearly angry and deflecting. There's no way that you could have been pissed off by me. Like,
they get jealous. You're successful. He's a loser. It's winners and losers in this world. You're a winner, Ariel.
But I reached out to the guy, I literally made a
they don't care. Contact. They don't care. John Lennon signed this guy's autograph. He gave him an autograph. It still wasn't enough.
Okay, I mean, look, that's I hear what you're saying. But I'd like to think that there's a solution, because it makes me feel bad, because I'm going on the site, and so is our team members, and I like reading the conversations. Like, I enjoy seeing what people say. I enjoy seeing different opinions. But when people are just being mean and hostile and immature and just uncivil in general, I'm just like, you guys are just literally trying to push people away, and you're bullies, and you're making it like a not pleasant environment. And you don't need to do that to have fun. You don't have to kind of gross people out with this shock value to be fun. You're right. It's about attention, but it's like, I thought these are like sophisticated individuals. You have to have reached a certain level of education, maturity in life to like watches. You should know, at least with a little warning of like, hey guys, cut that shit out, take it outside, just don't do it in here. But even after going to them and trying to like treat them like human beings, they don't act like adults.
Ariel, this is the world we live in. We've got so many people who are displaced. They don't have full-time employment. They don't have... There's so many things have gone wrong in their life. They've really got questions. They've got questions. They're not provided with answers. See, in the olden days, there was church. Church and Jesus would provide the answers. Now we're all cynics. We're all agnostic. So that's gone. The reality is, I'm afraid, Ariel, is that these people here, these trolls, they will be there. They're just never going to be happy. They are just harping for your failure. Do you understand? This is the problem. I mean, you really are the #1 influencer in America for watch buyers.
Okay.
You are the #1 influencer for watch buyers in America. Okay?
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, this is the truth. You're the #1 influencer. So these people think that by pulling you down, they have a brush with fame. Oh, I got Ariel into trouble. Oh, I got him to lose his temper. Oh, I got him to do this. See, these people are constantly harping on negativity because their own life is lacking in substance.
So they're actually just trying to upset me, like on purpose?
Yes, because they want a reaction. They want a reaction. You understand? They want a reaction.
But why from me?
Well, because a lot of people, what is their hobby in life? They have nothing to live for. The wife has told them to piss off. The boss hates them. They've been sacked. The only thing they really like is watches, and you're the king. You're the #1 influencer of watches in America.
I mean, it is a little bit of a strange psychology. You got to admit.
It is a strange psychology, but I mean, this is the truth. They want to see you.
Are there people that do that to you? That just try that, like they egg you on? They just try to piss you off?
Of course, of course. And when you have a talk to them and sit down with them, they're very sad people.
Yeah.
This world we live in, it, as you said from Bret Easton Ellis, there's winners and losers. And unfortunately, the world has a lot of losers.
Well, it kind of has to, right? Like you can't have winners if you don't have losers.
I like a win-win situation. I like to think people can win-win, but
you can sometimes. But in this scheme of things, you know, like it's all about. Think of this, like the Earth is a series of competing species, literally competing for resources, sunlight, physical space, nutrients, whatever. They're competing, and they can win as long as there's enough available resources. But when they have to compete for the same resources and both can't have the same thing, they're one of them. They fight, and there's two entities. Only one's gonna be allowed to exist. I mean, competition exists when you can't give something to everyone because there's limited resources.
That's correct. Just ask Amiga about it. See, they'll never be Rolex. They'll never be Rolex. Why do they even want to be Rolex?
I mean, everybody wants to be Rolex. Rolex is even companies don't make watches want to be Rolex.
They're a charity. Do you understand that? For the good of man. That's why they exist.
Yeah. So do you know a little bit about that story? Like what Wilsdorf's plan was when he made the foundation? What was his plan exactly?
It was to try and improve the world. It was to try and improve the world. He didn't have children. You know this, of course, don't you? He didn't have children. And Wilsdorf himself there, you know, absolutely legendary guy. The brand itself is probably the #1, the most valuable brand in the world as we speak. Rolex. I mean, it's just incredible. But he tried to leave a legacy behind, and they've got the Rolex Foundation, which gives out awards. Have you ever tried to get one of those awards? They're bloody impossible to get.
I'll bet.
And it's pretty amazing how they do it. You know, that the Swiss are very secretive. They don't give details of how much they give out or what they do exactly. But this foundation has, it's really quite amazing what they do. And I'd like to think that they actually do good for the world. That'd be a nice thing, wouldn't it?
If Rolex did good for the world?
Because Rolex was never really the greatest of brands. You know, they were shunned by the Swiss industry originally. You know that, don't you?
But the Swiss shunned everything initially. Like, literally everything.
Well, you know, in the olden days, he lived in England for a while. He was a German living in England. That's what he was. And it's a long story there. Rolex was just a generic name he registered. I think he registered Marconi as well. There was a number of brands he registered.
Yeah, he just thought it sounded nice in like a bunch of different languages. He's like, that sounds good.
Exactly. And it's become so. Even Patek said that's the one brand they admire is Rolex. You know that? Terry Stern in an interview said he admires Rolex.
How generous of them.
Well, I can't believe it's like Rolls-Royce admiring Mercedes-Benz.
I mean, they're such different companies. Here's the thing. It's like, how can Rolls-Royce say we don't admire like Toyota? Like, Toyota's ultra admirable because they do what they do very well. It's a different kind of car. Yes. You're not like they're the same as ours, but it's a very admirable company. So to say that you don't admire Rolex is just basically saying I don't admire an admirable company.
Yes. No, Rolex is an amazing company. I really think they are literally amazing, and
they're cool. I've been there several times. It's a cool place. But sorry, proceed.
No. You're right there. They are really amazing. It's douchebags who buy their product that destroys it all. I mean, do you become a jerk before or after you buy a Porsche?
I mean, look.
Are you a jerk before you get the Porsche, or you a jerk after you buy the Porsche?
I think you have what's called jerk potential. You know, that can be unleashed when put in a new circumstance. Like, you can start out not being a jerk and then buy a Porsche and then branch off into being a jerk or not a jerk. It's how you handle the Porsche experience. You know, again, it sounds cheesy, but it's like the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility. If you have something that you can use in an unfriendly, unneighborly like way, look, you can have a sports car and you can like drive it like crazy through a residential neighborhood and make the engine all loud and wake people up. Or you can do all that on a country road where you don't bother anyone, where you're supposed to do it. Same situation. One guy's a jerk, one guy isn't. It's what you do with it.
What watch makes you a jerk? What watch makes you a jerk?
What watch makes you a jerk? That's a good question, because when I think that,
would Hublot make you a jerk? Would Hublot make you a jerk?
No, it's very hard for me to think of a watch that just by pure nature of what the watch is. You know, wearing the watch in the wrong situation, doing something like unbelievably insensitive. I mean, I think it's activity and actions that make you a jerk, you know. And if wearing a watch is an action, that's one thing. But the watch itself, like, I don't know. I mean, look, I think watches communicate something about a personality. So you're right. A jerk.
Can I ask you something? Why is it that in America, I love America, the land of the free? Why is it that Putin, he wears a Patek, right? He wears a number of really high-end brands. Why won't any American president in recent history proudly wear something expensive and beautiful?
Well, the way it's been described to me is that in Russia, Putin is seen as something akin to a king. And people want their king to be rich and powerful. Not too rich, not too powerful, but our king has got to be powerful. And in America, civic leaders have to have the illusion of like doing it for the good of the people. So Bill Clinton wasn't the first one. He was probably the most famous one. He wore a Timex triathlon. Bill Clinton is a well-known watch lover.
I think Jimmy Carter. You'd have to throw it on Jimmy Carter.
Is the first one wearing the quote-unquote Democratic watch?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, probably. It's a tactic. It's a communication tool. You can't lose. You know, if you wear like an inexpensive basic watch, no one's going to fault you for it as a politician. If you wear a really nice one, other than like dignitaries and heads of state, your entire voter populace is going to be like, you're not supposed to ever be excessive. So I think it's just there's too much negative message value to wearing an expensive watch, and you have either something to gain or nothing to lose with a basic pedestrian watch.
Tell me this, what commercial watch, so this is going to exclude one-off limited editions, what current commercial production watch when I say commercial, in the last 20 to 30 years, if you had to have one watch for your life, would you be happy to wear for the rest of your days?
It would probably be something Japanese because they're made to like not require a lot of fuss.
Wouldn't go Rolex sub?
I mean, that'd be on the list, right? I mean, like, what happens if the movement breaks? Will someone fix it? That's a really, you know what I mean? Like, am I being practical here, or is it just like, what style would you wear, and it would just like have infinite durability? See, this is why I was bad at role-playing games, because like I had to talk about every single little nuance, and people are like, "Get out! Stop rolling dice."
I had a client recently who he's a very, very successful lawyer, and his client said, "You can have any watch you want, any watch you want."
His client clearly knows nothing about the price spectrum of watches.
Well, no. So he then said, "How about a Patek perpetual calendar chronograph?" He goes, "Almost any watch you want."
That's a good. You know, you should make a little cartoon, like a 3-panel cartoon. That would make a great 3-panel cartoon.
So his short list, 2 watches in the short list, were a platinum Daytona Rolex and a perpetual calendar 5140.
I might choose a Longue with like a really nice movement, because I gotta say, if I was gonna have just one watch, I'd want to make sure it was one that had like a amazingly beautifully decorated movement.
You know what he went for, don't you?
I mean,
he's a serious watch guy. The guy is really, really cool. Okay,
I'm guessing
went for the platinum Daytona.
You know, I can't ever fault someone for that, because it does have undeniable coolness. But
this guy is so cool. He's got a platinum world time. Okay, let's just put it into perspective. The guy isn't.
I don't know that I could stand behind platinum just yet. Like, I don't know if I've reached a point in my life where I see value in something which is valuable simply for the sake of being valuable.
Oh, I agree with you. I can't see what's wrong with a gold, white gold, yellow gold, or rose gold is good enough for me. Like,
I want the white gold GMT Master with the Pepsi bezel. I love that watch. That's the ultimate fuck you watch. I love that watch. But it's like, because, well, white gold is more practical than platinum and doesn't have to be so expensive. And then platinum's just like, scratch. I love the weight. Don't get me wrong. The weight is great. Because
platinum is amazing. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just... It's
how many watches does your wife have? Can I ask you that?
She has such picky tastes that I've given her a lot of watches over the years, and she like doesn't touch any of it. Some really nice stuff, and I had these fantasies. I'm like, okay, Ariel, you're gonna finally buy her the artistic watch that she's gonna appreciate. She's gonna see all the details, and she's gonna finally, you know, become a watch lover and get excited about it. And I'll give it to her, and I'll go out of my way and be all romantic. And then she's just like, oh, okay. I'm like, what do you think? She's like, oh, I'll look at it later.
I got to tell you, I've given my wives, I've been married multiple times, many watches, and I've had to take them off them.
Take them off them?
They haven't treated them with respect. I gave
respect?
Yes, like I had my wife cleaning the house with her Patek 24 on. I said, you're going to scratch the bloody thing.
Wow. What did you feel the moment you saw her wearing, I'm guessing, like latex gloves or something and cleaning the house?
I just said, take the Patek off. She had that same wife, I gave a Reverso manual wind Shadow 2.
Were you happy that she was cleaning? I would have been happy that someone was cleaning my house.
She put a massive scratch in the Patek, in the Reverso, in the roll. I heard it. She was making a cake. Ding, 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 ding. What's that noise? That's her Rolex Datejust hitting the bowl.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like a small price to pay to get a meal cooked.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
like a wife that cooks and cleans. Like, I hate to be that guy, but like, I don't care what it is. If you're living with someone that makes you food and keeps the place like tidy and nice to be in, that's worth some broken watches every once in a while.
oh,
I know, maybe
okay.
I'm being weird about it.
Yes, yes. I understand what you're saying. I
Look, I
gotta
get
tell.
infuriated too. I just want my wife to wear them. At least she was wearing it.
Yes. Do you think there's a place for watches still in society? Is there a place? Are they dying? Is it a lost art?
I mean, we're in society and we're talking about this stuff, and there's people, and we only do it because there's people who are listening, so
I
someone's into
mean,
it.
look, let's be honest there. I think Asia and India are going to be huge watch markets. That's going to fuel along for a long time, isn't it?
Look, this is what I believe, Archie. I'm gonna say this, and I really firmly believe this: that if our media, what you do, what I do, even though it's different, if our media didn't have a culturally or socially significant element like conversations people like, nobody would want to follow what we do, right? Like you know, those like they have those pieces of software that write like the weather news because it's basically all the same thing. Like you could have a piece of software that writes like watch reviews. You know what I mean?
Sure, I
It
know
would
what you're
just have a
saying.
bunch of algorithms like, oh, the you
Yeah.
know the size to thickness ratio is off. This is going to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable. Like you know, or just catalog the tech specs. Like you could do that. We add a filter, if you will, a lens that adds something else. It's kind of like watch reviews plus Ariel Adams philosophy, right? Just for example, whatever the hell that means. And so, you know, we kind of cross over into a few areas, and I think that's really our appeal. But it's like that with anything. I don't necessarily know why we obsess over watches. I'm looking at my desk right now, and there's an awful lot of watches. I had some young relatives over from out of town recently, you know, just show them some watches, and you know, the kids like it, and like they, for me, what's not that many watches because I've been to Basel, is a lot of watches. So I'm like, this stuff is important to me. Like I'm spending a lot of my time doing this rather than, I don't know, building homes or something. So there's definitely an appeal to it. And that appeal doesn't feel like it's going away. I still like watches today, even though the industry seems to be, you know, intent on destroying itself. So I don't think that.
Why do you think the industry is intent on destroying itself? Tell me that.
It really all boils down to a lot of unqualified people in positions of authority. There is an immense lack of leadership. There's an immense lack of ability to attract the right type of talent. It was not particularly good idea for these publicly traded companies looking for brands that have growth to invest in watch brands the way they did, assuming that there was going to be the type of growth that I think that they were looking for. That was very short-sighted. So I think there was a lot of unreasonable expectations on the type of performance that could be achieved from this, and that's caused a lot of problems. And right now, these companies are forced to ask a lot of questions. So there's a lot of things that happened. But it was just a lot of you know, I guess some people call it stupidity. People can say greed, they can say da da da. There's a lot of stupidity. I don't know that anyone's at fault. No one tried to destroy the watch industry. It was just an enormous amount of you know, of no one having any type of leadership. You know, Nicholas Hayek Sr. was the last real leader the industry has. I mean, I wrote a very long article about him since we last spoke. Hasn't published yet. You know, I'm fascinated by him, and I take the time to study him from time to time.
Any man who wears more than 2 watches at a time can't be bad.
Right. He was. I don't know. I encourage you someday to do a little study about him. He was an interesting guy, but he was not Swiss. You know, he had an American father and a Lebanese mother.
He saved the Swiss industry. You know this.
He did, but he did something else that people don't realize. He wrangled them like a cowboy in a lasso. He wrangled them and he pulled them and he forced them to do something. He made them move, which is what they needed. You know, it's like, imagine a bunch of factories without a boss. That's basically the Swiss watch industry. No one. And so today, after his death, his family has not had the type of character to drive them to be that type of leader. does take a very special individual. Jean-Claude Biver is someone who has part of it, but he's never really demonstrated the desire to want to like lead the entire industry. There's no leader. There's no savior. It's, you know, it needs to be someone. I'm a critic, right? I'm not a brand leader. I'm a critic. I help identify problems, but it doesn't just end with me.
Yes, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Was that a good answer to the question?
That's a brilliant answer. I got to tell you the truth there is that what do you think of watch conglomerates in your own opinion?
I mean, it really depends on how they're set up. It's necessary.
Really, do you think Richemont is a good conglomerate, or they would be better if the brands were independent?
Richemont's probably not a good conglomerate because they've chosen to run things in an unsustainable way. Like, they've proven you can't keep going on your business model because you keep ignoring things that are like a big deal. So they either change or have more serious problems.
What do you think is wrong with Panerai at the moment?
It's what's wrong with a lot of watches. It's just got to the point where nobody trusts the pricing. Like, no one does. You know, there is no consumer confidence in luxury watch pricing of any kind. You know, you were talking about Jomashop. Jomashop may be contributing to that, but the watch brands are encouraging the Jomashops to exist. They just are. It's just it's a reality. They claim. I love talking. They're like, "Oh, yes, we are trying to get to the bottom of this. We feel like we're close to understanding why this exists." I'm like, what are you guys, crazy? Like, you're pretending like it's some type of mystery of how your watches get to Jomashop. Like the thing is, they sell watches in large quantities wholesale. That's how they make their money. They're afraid of destroying that.
But who is supplying Jomashop? Is it dealers who need to get rid of stock?
Sometimes it's distributors. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to blame particular countries or whatever needlessly. All I want to say is that there's, you know, again, you're a watch company. What do you want to do? You want to sell watches by the truckload, right? You don't want to sell watches one at a time. No. So you need to sell it to people who are going to buy it by the truckload.
Yes.
So when you do that, you know, you don't always know where those watches are going to go, but you're pretty sure that, you know, it's all tracked. And, you know, you have to ask yourself, is this guy selling all the watches in his region? So the distribution system doesn't make any sense anymore with the internet. It did before the internet. It did when, like, you lived in like Milan, Italy, and yeah, maybe there was a better price for something in New York, but it was a horrible pain in the ass to go do that, you know, go there just to buy a watch. So you're just going to buy it in your area. But today with the internet and shipping and things like that, the prices have flattened. It flattens. The lowest price in Japan is the lowest price everywhere.
Yes. Yes. That's not a bad thing, but for the consumer, is it?
It's not a bad thing for the consumer, but the consumer has been trained that this is the actual price of the watch, and you know what it is. So you can't just be like, we're going to make this go away and charge the same high amounts. The price needs to kind of neutralize and fall down, deflate down to what the market can bear. What we're demonstrating now, what we see is that prices have exceeded what the market can bear, and things happen in kind.
I think you're right. You're 100% right there. It's a sad reflection there. It's economic times in China, of course. You know, the Chinese market has gotten very tough. China is not as easygoing as it was before.
Well, is that a surprise to anyone?
Well, the bubbles, things can't keep going up and up and up, can they?
I mean, again, there's certain people in Switzerland, and they've actually said this to me. They're like, but it is not reasonable to believe. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do the accent. It's not. They said to me, it's not reasonable to believe that, you know, this growth in China was just suddenly going to stop. They're like, we were justified for continuing to invest there and make expectations. And I say, wait, whoa. So you know that by doing exorbitant amounts of inventory, that you don't sell those volumes anywhere else in the world, and knowing that a lot of these watches are gifted, and that grafting, which is bribing, is very common way of effectively doing business there, you knew that these watches are being purchased as what is considered in other parts of the world bribes. So you're saying that you didn't think that that might be regulated against sooner or later?
You got to remember, I don't want to be rude to you, okay? Can I just explain some concept to you very simply?
Please.
The whole Swiss banking industry is based on stolen Jewish money. Basically, in World War II,
don't worry, I'm not a Swiss banker.
People in Germany who were German Jews were encouraged to deposit their money in Switzerland in numbered accounts. Basically, these people deposited huge sums of money in bank accounts and never came to make a withdrawal. That is what the whole Swiss banking industry is. Now, I got to be honest with you. If you have a free loan of money where no one comes back to claim it, that ain't a bad business model, is it?
Under those circumstances, it would seem rather profitable, yes.
And that's what these people thought about China. They thought it was the next thing. So you can't blame the Swiss for being so unrealistic. The honest answer is that they think of gift horses coming constantly. See, not only that, but they had teams of. Have you been to Geneva yourself? You've been to Geneva, haven't you?
I've been to Geneva more times than I'd like to admit.
A good friend of mine went to Geneva last year, and he said he saw this guy walk into a Patek or just a watch dealer. So I'd like a world time. Pulled it out. Boom! I'll take it. I'll buy that. No problems. Put it on his Amex card, and that was it. He was also there to deposit $30 million into a numbered Swiss account.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing. These people here, they don't have money problems like me or you. They just have all this money. The most expensive place to buy watches in the world is Switzerland. Did you know that? They don't discount.
They do now.
Discounting is frowned upon.
It's frowned upon, but they do now.
They don't like it.
No, they don't.
And it's I got to tell you myself, I honestly believe myself that the watch industry itself, I think things are cyclical. Okay, that whatever goes up must come down. Whatever goes up must come down, but things will level off. There'll be better times again, and we've got the Trumpster in the White House, and we've got things are starting to improve. If we don't die from a nuclear war with North Korea, everything will be great. It's going to be great.
Oh, I love that story, the North Korean story. That's such a great story.
Yes, he's a huge watch fan.
Oh, is he? We wrote an article. He has a little Movado that he wears. He got when he was a kid in Switzerland.
Because he went to a Swiss school. You know that, don't you?
Oh, yeah. They're protected there. That's like the wonderful thing about the Swiss schools. Like, we don't know how good the education will be, but we promise your child probably won't get killed or kidnapped.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. And he's apparently a bit of an asshole, I heard, at school, but I won't go into that.
You're surprised that Kim Jong-un was a bit of an asshole?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, but...
and that surprises you?
Nothing surprises me. Good on him. You know that? It's good to hear he's not boring.
I mean...
I got to tell...
He's living 1984, right? Like the book, like he's basically probably read it. Is like, that's what I need to do. And part of that is there always needs to be an enemy. That was a great
movie. That was a great movie. You know that.
Yeah. Well, Orwell, right? So you know, basically he has to create the West as an enemy as a way of like allowing people to appreciate the sacrifice they're making to protect North Korea. But it all crumbles if he actually ever attacks anyone. No one's ever going to just proactively attack them.
But we need an enemy too. Don't forget that.
Yeah, we do. We have to like spend money on like armies and stuff like that. It's like an engine. You got to keep the fuel going a little bit.
That's exactly it. Ariel, it's been an absolute honor to have this.
We've had a long couple of talks tonight, right? What did we had two?
Yeah, this was fantastic. This was absolutely amazing. You're welcome anytime you want to be on my crappy little YouTube channel. You just fire away. It's been an honor. I will remember this until I depart this planet Earth, and I got to say to you, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting watches. As I say to you, you are the #1 watch influencer in the world. The #1 watch influencer outside the brands. Because, the brands are certainly one thing, but you are an independent. You're the #1 watch influencer in the world. That is an amazing title to have.
Thank you. That's the title you gave me. Look, I want to say again, I have a lot of respect for your audience as well. I mean, look, these are people that spend a lot of their time interested in the culture behind watches. I
gotta say, you know, there's so many watches, Ariel, so many watches where I have buying a watch or interested, and I'll stumble upon an article aBlogtoWatch has written.
Yeah, we got a lot now.
You've got so many. And I got to say, you know, in all honesty, you know, I think you've done a good job. Very, very, you've pushed the envelope. I think if you would have been a bit more of a toady, you would have perhaps made more money commercially. But
a toady? Is that what you said, toady?
Yeah, a
I'm
toady.
not familiar with that term.
It's an English term. It means when you give the customer what they want all the time without being critical of their flaws.
Who's my customer, though?
Well, you know, if the watch company's giving, wanting a review, they're kind of, they want you to say this watch is a magnificent. It'll make you have success with it'll just change your life. You got to buy it. That's what they want you to say. But whereas, your reviews, you point out many flaws. Your reviews aren't just corporate script.
But the thing is, I write reviews for guys like you and me, and neither of us wants to read corporate script. So my philosophy has always been produce what I would want.
The companies want corporate script. That's what they want. They want.
They don't. They want that because they want something good. The problem is they don't know what good is. So they want what I'm trying to give them. We just have a difference of opinion of what effective is.
Yep. No, I got to tell you, I've read so many of your articles there. Every watch, you've written so many. How many watches do you think you've reviewed?
I actually asked myself that question. Actual reviews, I would have to do a little search on the site. I don't know. I can say that we have published over 6,500 articles.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that keeps growing. That's, we have a new version of the website coming, and one of the big questions we had is, how do we help remind people of like stuff we've written in the past that are like all these great in-depth things? That's like the challenge of any, digital magazine is like you keep churning content and no one knows how to like find the old stuff. So there's all this evergreen things you don't know about. There's a tool in that. Look, I'm going to ask you as a colleague. Let's keep thinking about that question about what to do with the community. Can I tell you what my theory is? I have a proposed solution.
Yes, tell me this.
Okay, and I'd like to find one for a blog to watch, actually.
Sure.
The position would be something like community leader, and they would be a moderator that acts a little bit differently than the other moderators. They wouldn't just sort of passively be in the background, deleting crap or telling people to screw off. They would be literally leading the conversations. They would bring up topics. They would respond to people. If someone's doing something inappropriate, that person knows the leader would tell you to cut it out. It's almost like a teacher guiding a class, if you will. Maybe not so much in that way, but a leader. And the bullies would know that the leader always has the authority, and don't be rude to that person. So there'd be at least one person you had to not be rude to. And the leader would make sure that the conversation goes beyond the article, right? Like maybe I have a conversation in the article, but then the audience wants to have more conversation. The leader facilitates that.
Yes, I see what you're saying there. Look, that's a hard line to toe, because the problem is this world we live in, I think we're in a period of time where we're seeing change like it's never happened as fast as it happened in recent history. This is the problem. Like normally change would come slowly. We could adapt and change things. The British car industry, it closed down from the 70s. That was a 10-year period it had, and it stuffed it up, okay? This new internet age we live in, things can change within 2, 3, 4 years, all over, within 4 years. So I honestly think myself, this is a situation it's just like the Industrial Revolution when the steam engine came out, it revolutionized. The internet is changing the world.
I know, but like in the context,
And
like, what are you afraid is going to happen? I'm curious.
what am I afraid is going to happen? It's just a disaster. We're already seeing it now. We're seeing, you know, the world itself. Globalization is legalized slavery. We're seeing so many bad things happening. We're not seeing this alpha male, this client of ours. He doesn't have the job security that he once had. Everything is up and down. People are changing careers so quickly. We're not having the stability that we had in the past. We've got to reinvent ourselves. And I really think in this world here, watches are one thing which we can have, which give us some stability.
You know what? This is one of the things I see. I think that it's globally, it's a hard time for everyone. I don't think there's very few groups that aren't suffering. Yes, you can say there's certain rich people that are getting richer, but
yes,
trust me, they're not immune from the worries and woes of the world. There's just as much concern for instability for them as there is for us. So I think that's the thing, and I think part of the problem is that, you know, like I said, the economy is essentially flat. You can blame globalization. I don't think you know that. What do? Take globalization away? No, it's here. You have to deal with it. So I think the problem is we have to look for new areas that we want to invest effort, right? Every booming economy has been based upon something that people want to invest in. And now no one has any idea what to invest in anymore. We're not making, the governments need to encourage investing by literally making industries. Like NASA made the aerospace industry. Now it's like, they're making it difficult. So yes, there's still a lot of government contracts, but governments in a much bigger way need to make industry. Everything's become so free market that there's no direction at all. The market needs a direction to go in.
Yes, you're right. You're right. It's
so like in America and Australia, I think invest in education. Build a bunch of schools, a bunch of jobs. Like redo the whole education system because it's clearly outdated. Like a new whole plan of how to educate kids for a new world. Just redo everything from the ground up. That's hundreds of thousands of hours of people's time. You know what I mean? You know, make it attractive for people to become teachers again. Like redo that. That should be a giant investment in certain countries.
You're exactly right, Ariel. Unfortunately, we all want the gold Rolex with diamond dial. And
we can have it. We can all have it.
We can all have it. Ariel, I'm going to wrap this show up. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please come again. Okay,
Archie,
it's been an honor.
So much.
I will cherish this day forever.